Today I'm actually showing you um, chapter 6 or lesson 6 this week on extract panel. Um, in your textbook lesson 6, you started with basically creating some predefined layouts using the Dreamweaver interface and tools. So this part should be fine. You should be okay doing this. Just follow through the step by step how to create it. And then when you come to the styling a predefined layout, especially point number 2, where you are going to be using this feature called extract in Dreamweaver. Um, Unfortunately, this panel is no longer available in the most recent Dreamweaver version. So instead, I'm going to show you, instead you will be um, doing using Photoshop instead to do that work. Okay, so as you can see here, the verbiage from Adobe about this extract in Dreamweaver is that effective July 1st, 2022, the features in extract panel will be discontinued in version 21.2 and earlier version as well, not just the latest version. So the latest version is 21.3 right now, so which you have. So the one that you have right now, the extract panel is actually no longer available. I can show you where it is supposed to be found. So suppose go to Window and select extract. So the extract used to be here, but is no longer available, as you can see in the latest Dreamweaver version. So we have no way of following this part in the lesson. So throughout this whole lesson, there will be several occasions where the step will take to ask you to go back to go back to the extract, and this is what it's supposed to look like when you open up the PSD file, the Photoshop file that the design that you create in Photoshop. Well, you didn't create it, but it was given, and you do the same for your project as well from last week. So anyway, this panel kind of look like this, but we are not able to do that. So there are several occasions where you say extract text as well. Anytime when you see extract, okay, the part extract, you won't be able to follow through that part. So instead, I will show you an alternative solution to that. Okay, so there will be several occasions in the chapter throughout. So let me take you back to this. So yeah, so this panel is no longer available. So instead, we are going to be using a couple of features in Photoshop to fill up the uh, vacancy on that. So the first one is the copy CSS feature. So the copy CSS is actually copying the CSS through the layer panel in Photoshop, and I'll show you how to do that. And also the next one is called the generate or create image assets in Photoshop from your PSD file, and you do that through the layers as well. So everything is done through the layers in Photoshop. Okay, it's actually relatively easy to do. So these are the two things we will rely on in the lesson 6. Okay. So let's start by looking at the Dreamweaver. Okay, so in Dreamweaver, you are going to be creating, first of all, this new, I'm just going to create one right now. So it's a starter template, bootstrap template, e-commerce. This is what you were asked to create. So I'm going to actually create that. And I'm going to save this. So this template comes with some predefined CSS already. Mostly Bootstrap, which is a responsive web design. CSS that's attached to this file. Okay, so you can see the link here in the code view. Let me see. If you scroll up, you can see all the links. The Bootstrap, actually probably down here. A lot of times the Bootstrap files are actually at the bottom. So let me see. Yeah, there you go. Okay, especially the JavaScript part of the Bootstrap. The CSS one is actually on the top here, right here, because it shows all the absolute path only because the file is not saved yet. So I'm just going to save it, right? So you will be asked to do that as well, to save this as, I think it's called mylayout.html, something like that. Save into lesson 6, and it should appear here. Okay, so this is the page, the template you're going to be creating, and you're going to be creating this that favorite city tour design using this template. So the whole lesson 6 is actually going to take you through that process of how to design the header and the menu in lesson 6. In that process, you will be asked to gather stuff from the mockups. So since the extract panel is no longer available, so what we're going to do is to get the CSS, right? So with the extract panel, it's supposed to be easy to copy the CSS style that you created from Photoshop, because Photoshop translate all your design into CSS for you, and all you need to do is open up the PSD supposedly in Dreamweaver in the extract panel, and you should be able to select certain design elements on the page, and you should be able to copy the CSS and transfer it to your layout, like this layout. Now we can still do the same thing, but we just don't have the extract panel to do that. So what I'm going to do, like for example, I want to color this background, right? This background is this template is actually quite close to the Photoshop layout that we have done. Now I'm just showing you this one. Technically, I want to, hang on, let me go back to Dreamweaver. By the way, I'm going to show you as well. There is in the resources folder in the lesson 6, there is the PSD mockup provided as well. So you can actually open up this file in Photoshop as well, assuming you have Photoshop already installed by now. So all you have to do is just double click on this, and it will open up this file in Photoshop. Okay, and so we are in Photoshop right now, so make sure I hold on to the move tool, and you're looking at the layers. Okay, the layers is what you want to look at. So if I want to get the background color or the navigation bar color and all that stuff, all the design elements, so as you know, the layers are all grouped into different parts of the page, right? According to the different parts of the page, like nav bar would be the top here, the header would be this part, right? And then you have our favorite tours, that text there, and then all these panels, right? These panels here, London, Paris, New York. So each one is in their own group or folders. So that's easy, right? That's a header, New York. And then you have the page background. So, and that's all the page background stuff, okay? So what I suggest you to do is to export the CSS from each group, okay? I'm gonna start with the nav bar. So you select the nav bar, okay? Now I have the folder closed right now, and you right click on it or control click on the Mac and select copy CSS. Now, once you copy the CSS, all the styles that you design here in Photoshop has been translated to CSS code as well, and you have the access to those codes by simply just right click on it and select copy CSS. So now I'm going to jump to Dreamweaver. Now all this I'm talking about right now is not part of the lesson 6, okay? So what I'm doing now is in place of the extract panel steps. So at least this first step, you don't have to do it again later on, unless you didn't save, say for instance, right now I only copy the CSS from the nav bar. I didn't copy the rest. So maybe when you come to that time when you need to do it according to the lesson 6, then you can go and do it again, right? Like exact same steps like what I'm doing now. So I already copied the CSS. So what I want you to do is to create a new file to store all the CSS codes into a separate file. So go to the new document and select CSS and click on the create button. So now you create a new file, okay? Now this is all CSS code in here. It's a CSS document. So what you copy from Photoshop, now in Dreamweaver, you paste it. See, all the CSS code is now brought in all in here. Everything to do with the nav bar, okay? So these ones are the, well, you can tell these are actually the home button text. So these are all text related style. If you recall in Photoshop, there's two different things here going on, right? So you can see that. So I'm going to actually zoom in for you. If you look at this, the text is the text, which is all this text here, right? And also there are rectangles. So the rectangles are the ones that is holding each text. So it's like a made into a button shape, right? So those are the rectangles. So what it does in the CSS translation to that would be in Dreamweaver. So these are all the text labels style, and these are the shapes. Okay, all those rectangle shapes that forms a button. So each one is actually similar. They all have the exact same code. Okay, divided into different rectangle shaped buttons. So anyway, those are the style. So when you you save this, I will save this, right? Save as. Save into lesson 6. What I'll do is call it, or what you can do is create a folder. I probably will organize into inside lesson 6 just to store all this special CSS. So I'm going to create a new folder in here. I'm going to call it PSD CSS. That means from the Photoshop file, right? So I'm going to create, so I created this folder inside the lesson 6. I'm going to store this as nav bar dash PSD CSS. Okay, so it's not a PSD, but it's a CSS file. But I put PSD just for me to know that these are the from the Photoshop. Okay, so I'm going to save it, and so now this file is now saved into the folder here. Okay, so it's already in here. And when it's time for you to style this, because it's going to ask you to step by step change all these links into to become home, tours, cruises, events, contact us, about us. So it's going to take you step by step to do different ways of creating it. So and then they ask you to get the colors. Okay, so let's say I want to change. Let me go back to the layout. I mean the lesson. Maybe I can follow one of those first step and try to change. So I already have the document done. So now it's time to style that, right? So let me see. Styling the predefined. Okay, this is the step where you're supposed to extract and you're supposed to copy the CSS. Here, I'm going to show you afterwards. So this is the extract panel, which we are not using, right? Which we don't have. So there you go. This is the part where you're supposed to copy the background color of the layout, okay? Of the nav bar, okay, EEDD, whatever. And then we're going to apply it. So yeah, I copy that background and then apply it to the top navigation menu. Okay, so let me see. And so select that. So everything is done through the CSS designer, by the way, in Dreamweaver. So we're supposed to select that, and then you will see all these different classes, and then select the nav. After that, we go to current. Okay, so I'm going to do the same. So let me go back to the Dreamweaver here, right? So I'm going to select the nav bar. I'm going to click on it, okay? And actually this one, oh, sorry, this one. So once I click on it, you see these 4 classes as the lessons show you in the diagram, and then you click on the nav. So these are the selectors at the bottom. So when you click on something here, so they show you all the hierarchical elements pertaining to the element that you are actually in focus right now. So whenever the textbook, the chapter asks you to select a tag, it actually has a diagram to show you anyway. So this is the tag that is referring to, okay? So you select this. So I select the nav. So and then jump to this CSS designer. Okay, so all the work that you're doing in this chapter, this lesson, is actually done through the styling of it is done through this panel here. So I think I asked you to go to the current. Okay, let me go back and see what it wants me to select. Sorry about that. So yeah, it shows all the different ones. So when tracking down the current styling of element, blah blah blah, part of the job, styling. So in the CSS designer, click on the current, which I have done that, and then select the BG dark rule, and then examine, right? So let me see if I can find that. The BG color, I can see it. So there's no selector here. Okay, let me select again. So I select the nav, current. Okay, maybe I need to create one. Maybe I missed it. Give me a second here. Alright, the element will appear, blah blah blah, navbar, LG, and BG dark. This will display all of the. Okay, I believe I can see that. I'm sorry. So that's the BG dark here. It must be here somewhere. I'm not seeing it. Oh, here we go. I think that's where that's the media. And okay, so I selected that, and so here's the thing, right? It's organized like this. First of all, the CSS, that file that you're supposed to be looking at, the media, we don't have media, you can ignore that, and then followed by selectors. Once you select the selector, and then you go down and look for properties. So the properties are what is used to style. So they're divided into different categories. We have layout, text, border, background. So I think if we look at background here, right now it says that this background color is overridden. It says the background color does not apply to your selector because it is not inherited. It is applied is an enclosing tag. However, pages element transferred by default, so this color may show through. Okay, that's fine. All right. Anyway, I'm just going to proceed. Okay, I'm supposed to see that, and then okay, so we're supposed to create a new CSS file called favorite style CSS. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So you do it through the designer so that it's automatically linked to the mylayout.html. So in the CSS designer, you would click on the plus here to create a new style sheet, right? Add a CSS source. Click on it and say create a new CSS file. And we are supposed to call it favorite. Let me go back and see. Favorite style CSS. Okay, favorite dash style dot CSS, and you want to make sure it's linked to this layout page. Okay, and then that's it. All right, so now we have our own CSS document, and if you look under the source here, you can see that the file is now added to here, right? And if you look at the files panel, the style CSS is also added to our folder. Although I should have saved it in there, but that's okay. I'll just leave it there. I don't know whether the lesson asked you to save in the CSS folder. If it did, you should have saved in there. But if you didn't, you can move it in there anyway. Okay. So anyway, that is the file. So let's go back to the CSS designer. So we have selected that. And what is the next instruction? Now that we have created that, When you click OK, let's say click OK, we have selected that in the source panel here. We already selected that. And we're going to click the add selector icon to create a new rule. Okay. So with this selected, I'm going to go to the selector, skip the media, right? Click here to create a new one. And we're going to put a dot bg, and then it will come up with all these suggested names. Actually, these classes are Bootstrap classes. So what you see earlier, the original BG Dark, that was based on the Bootstrap class. So you shouldn't change that one, okay? So that is already applied to this template. What we're trying to do is create our own custom CSS to override some of the Bootstrap classes that's already on the template. So because we want to create our own design. So according to the lesson, it wants us to pick the same name, okay? So you type on it or you select it, and after that you hit return. So that will create that rule for us, or that selector, or that it wants this BG. Yeah. So we call it BG dark, and then after that, now because the fact that so it said I'm skipping some of the steps obviously because I let you do the rest. So the step 17 asks you to paste the style that you copy from the extract panel. So let me go back. The step that we couldn't do is from the extract, right? So this is the extract panel. You're supposed to copy the CSS background color, and then after that you do all the things that we have just done, and then after that you're supposed to paste. Okay, you're supposed to, let me see where it is. Okay, paste the style onto the BG doc selector. So we can do that. So instead, this is what we can do. So we have this, right, BG doc selector, and we want to apply a background color. Now instead of doing this manually, we can actually, if you have the style copy from the extract panel, you just right click and paste. Now see, we can do it because we didn't copy from somewhere in the Dreamweaver extract panel. It's in the clipboard, we can just paste, but that's why this is not highlighted, because we can do it. We didn't have the copy feature. So what we're going to do instead is, now we can do it this way, or you can do the different ways. Now remember, we created another file. Let me take this out. Okay, that's Photoshop. So remember, we created a file called navbar PSD. Okay, so we are supposed to pick the color from the rectangle background. So the text doesn't have any background color, as you can tell, because you don't apply background color to text, but we apply to the rectangle, the button itself. So we have, actually, you know what, that is the page background. Sorry, I think we need to go back to Photoshop and export that one too. So I think it's supposed to get it from the background. So we do have that, the page background. Okay, so I'm going to copy the CSS on this one, on this layer called page back, right? I just copy the CSS, jump back to Dreamweaver. I'm going to create another file just for the page background, CSS, create, and paste. Okay, so this all has to do with the page background and any of the layers in Photoshop associated with it that we organize that way. So next I'm going to save it as, so I'm going to call it page dash PSD, save into the same folder, right? Okay, so if you look at all these codes, you have the background color right here. If you're not sure, you click on it. So this is faint white. This is too yellow. I think the color that they, okay, that's the main container. I think it's this one. So this is the color we want. Now in the lesson it says it is a let me see, EEDD66, right? Now this is the hex code. The equivalent of that can be also written in RGB. So in since we copy from Photoshop, so we actually got the RGB color, which is fine. We can still use that. Okay. So what we can do is, you know, we're going to, you can copy this line and then paste the code into the layout. So let me show you two different ways. Okay, you can do either way. Sorry. Where was that again? Sorry, I was in this code here, right? So I'm going to copy this again. Okay, Command C, Control C to copy, and then I am going to go back to the layout. Okay, and I have the favorite style selected, BG selected. So what I'm going to do is I go to code. Okay, because this rule is inside the favorite style CSS. So it's going to take me to the favorite style CSS. By the way, all these files that is here, I think I showed you earlier, is linked to this layout. This is up here because they are not linked, and I don't want them to be linked because this is just for me to work on. Okay, they're not files I want to actually link to this file. So this is the one that's supposed to link, and it is. So the BG color is already here. So what you can do is just do this. Oops, sorry, I should have copied the whole thing, right? So copy the whole line, background color. Like that. Okay, so that's one way. I'm going to undo it. So the other way is to move back to this. When you select this, your CSS designer is showing this file here, right? Now the rest is not shown because I'm not selecting the HTML. This is the independent file. So this is select this and then go to the background because that's reflecting all this. A page back is this one, header rule is this one, main container is this one, and then background is this one. So in the background we have all these different properties. So what I can do is just right click on it and select copy styles, and then I want to copy the background styles. Okay, so you copy it. Unfortunately you can't really break down into all the different ones that you know, for example, I just want the background color, I don't want the rest. Sometimes it comes with other ones. That's okay. So I already copy from this. Now I jump back to my layout and the BG dot is highlighted. Right click and now I can paste style. Okay, so it's a similar steps when you do the extract from the extract panel, because this is the final step. Once you get the copy the color from the extract, you have to do this one. So we are doing a slightly different way. So with the method 2, you can now paste style because I copy from this one, right? The background, right? Remember this? I go to copy style and select this. I copy the background styles. So it's in the clipboard. So now I jump back to this. Now I'm ready to paste the style. So you can see here, so the only thing that is from the background style is the background. So you can see that it does exactly the same thing. Which way is faster? I leave it to your own judgment. Okay, so it's up to you how you want to do this. So step 1 is to copy the code directly from here and then paste it into your favorite style like this. Or you can select this and go to the background rule and then copy style, select the right one that you want. And then after that, you jump to the HTML and then you right click and paste style. So those are the two different ways. Okay, so that takes care of the extract copying CSS part. So it's pretty easy. So every time you come across on the lesson, it asks you to get the color, get the properties, you know. I'll show you at the end, especially at the end, there's a lot on that. So like you see there's some more here. The diagram will show you, you know. So so yeah, so that's some of it here. Like this one again, So anytime you see this one, that means you have to copy the styles. Okay, so make sure you go back to Photoshop and look at the layer. If you don't have this one yet, so you copy. I don't think in this lesson you're doing this. You're doing the header for sure. You're doing the page background and you're doing the nav bar. So these three is what you need the CSS for. Okay, so you copy the CSS and paste it into a separate document in Dreamweaver, like what I just did. Sorry, let me go back and do it right. Okay, so you, I don't know what happened to my, it's very annoying. Okay, so just how I organize this. So you just create another CSS file for the header. Okay. Alright, so let's go back to the lesson. I want to show you the other part where it says generate assets. Okay, adding image background. Let me see the part where you're supposed to generate extracting image assets from the mockup. So on this part, because we don't have the extract panel again, so what is the next best option, right? The alternative option. Well, that would be extracting images from Photoshop, basically, right? So that's an easy part, actually. This is actually very easy. So the first example is you want to grab this logo or header image from your PSD. So what we can do is, so again, on the PDF here, on this site, it will explain about generating image assets type of thing. I'll give you the link in this week's, okay, so you will have access to it. So it's very easy. How do you extract images from Photoshop mockup? So let's go to Photoshop. So as you know, again, all our imagery are organized into different folders. So this one is definitely not in the nav, because nav is actually this one. So definitely it's not here. So which one is it, right? Is it in the header? Yes. So you see, I click on the eye icon, switch on and off. I know that is the layer I'm talking about. So so I'm going to look for this image. Let me see which one, right? This is the text. That's not it. Text. That's not it. Logo. Ah, there you go. That's the one I'm thinking, right? So I want to export this image. Now you can export all of them, all the image from this whole folder. I mean, this layers, or you can do one at a time based on the lesson, which one they ask you to get. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first of all, you need to turn on this. So you go to File in Photoshop and select Generate Image Asset. This is just to turn it on, okay? It's not going to do anything. So once you select it, there's a check mark in it. So that means it's on. Now it's off, okay? So I turn it on. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm ready to export this out as an asset, so I double click on it and just add an extension to the name, either .gif, .jpeg, or .png, okay? With this particular type of image, because it looks like there's some shadow on the edges, so there's some transparency on the edges going on, I recommend saving as a .png file, okay, or a .gif. Probably a PNG is better, higher quality than a GIF. JPEG doesn't support transparency, so I would not. Now, all these photos down here, like London, Paris, those you can export as JPEG, okay? So this is going to be PNG file. So I'm hit return, okay? So you wonder, like, okay, now what happened? Well, this is what you should go back to Dreamweaver. And so now, this is the panel here. I'm still on CSS Designer. I will go back to the Files panel, okay? Now keep in mind, that Photoshop file is open directly from Dreamweaver, as I showed you earlier. So how do I do that again? In Lesson 6, under Resources, there's a PSD file included, okay? So I double click from here. So that will open up this file directly into Dreamweaver, into Photoshop. And the good thing about that is, if I do this image assets, now it will automatically export that image and save it into the lesson 6 folder where the PSD file is located. And if you look carefully, the resources, this folder wasn't there before. Now it has created this folder called favorite city mockup assets. Okay, so what's inside? Your logo, that file that we select in the Photoshop layer. So let me show you again. It's called favorite-logo.png. So now if I go to Dreamweaver, you will see that again here. Okay, so that is the image is generated and saved into the resources. Now, quite honestly, when you do web pages, all the images that you use on the page should not come from this folder. It should come from this folder, images. That's where you're supposed to store all your images that you're actually going to put onto the page. So now in the lesson, it will say that once you extract from the extract folder, extract panel, the file will automatically save, so it has a download right for them, it will automatically save into the image folder. For us, it didn't do that, right? So we will have to do it manually. So what you could do is just move this into the image folder. Scan site to links to rename files. Don't scan. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so it's already in here. When the scan thing is means like if you have linked image, insert an image to a page and you move the image after that to a different folder, you want to make sure the path is updated. So Dreamweaver will update the path for you. So I think that's what the scan is asking you. If I recall, wording has been changed. It used to be not called scan, so now it calls scan. So I believe that's the same thing. Basically, it's like, okay, I can update the path for you since you're moving the image to a different folder so that the image that you use on this page will not be broken, you know? It means that. So since I didn't use this image here, so it doesn't matter, you know what I mean? So there you go. You see, this is now already moved into the image folder. It's no longer inside the assets folder. Okay, so now I can use it. So you just do it according to the lesson, how to place this image here, okay, in Dreamweaver. Right here. Oh, sorry, not here. That's still the panel, the extract panel. Yeah, right here. Okay, how to put it back into the page in Dreamweaver. Let me see any other things. I think that's all I want to talk about. So it's relatively easy. Okay, so again, the copy CSS, make sure you save all the CSS into different files so you can understand where to look for it. Navbar, page background type, and then the header, another CSS file for header, another CSS file for London, another CSS for, and all that. So since you're not dealing with those London, Paris yet, in this lesson, you're just dealing with navbar, page background, and the header. Okay, those are the only three you're dealing with here in this lesson 6. All right, I think that's all I have for you. So again, when you go through lesson 6, don't be panicked and realize that there's no extract panel, because there isn't. Okay, so you're just going to be using those alternative methods I was talking about and show you, which is copy CSS and generating assets. All right, so hope you all will have no problem working on this lesson 6, and happy coding and happy learning. Bye for now.